For decades, the way we've treated mental health has followed a pretty familiar script. But what if that script is about to be completely rewritten? Today, we're looking at psilocybin. Yep, the psychoactive compound in magic mushrooms and how it's challenging basically everything we thought we knew about treating our minds. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll look at how psilocybin is shaking up the old models of treatment. Then, we'll dive into some really surprising early evidence, especially around addiction. After that, we're going to tackle the biggest debate in the field. Is the trip actually necessary to get the benefits? And finally, we'll look at the promising but still uncertain road ahead. Okay, so let's start with this mental health shakeup. We're talking about a huge shift in thinking, one that moves way beyond the routine of just taking a pill every day. So many of us know the traditional model for antidepressants, right? It's a pill every single day, it's a long-term commitment, and you have to be patient. The effects are gradual, often taking weeks, sometimes even longer, before you feel a real difference. It's kind of like a marathon of maintenance, not a sprint to a quick fix. And this is where you see the huge contrast. On one side, you have that daily dose, but on the other, you have psilocybin-assisted therapy, which might only involve 1 to 3 guided sessions. And the effect? Well, while traditional meds take weeks to build up, a few psilocybin sessions have shown effects that can last for months. This isn't just about a different dosing schedule. It's a whole different philosophy, moving away from long-term symptom management toward a short-term intervention that could actually reset brain patterns. Now, let's get into some of that surprising early evidence, and we're going to focus on one of the most powerful areas of research right now, addiction. It is super important to remember that this research is still new, often with pretty small groups of people. But even so, the initial results have been, frankly, staggering. Two areas that really jump out are alcohol dependence and smoking addiction, where this therapy has produced some truly remarkable outcomes. So, in studies looking at alcohol dependence, people who went through psilocybin therapy reported a major drop in their heavy drinking days. And this wasn't just a fleeting thing. The effect lasted for up to 2 months after their sessions. But the results for smoking? This is where it gets really wild. In one major study, an incredible 80% of participants quit smoking within 6 months. 80%. Just let that number sink in for a second. And you might be wondering, okay, but did it last? Well, yeah. The same study followed up almost 5 years later, and 60% of them were still completely smoke-free. That is an amazing success rate from just a couple of guided sessions. These incredible results bring us right to the single biggest question in psychedelic science today. To trip or not to trip? Seriously, this debate could shape the entire future of this field. Let's put it simply. Is that hallucinogenic, often life-changing psychological experience, the trip, is that essential for the therapy to work? Or is it just a weird side effect that we could, engineer away? And the scientific community is totally split. On one side, you have researchers who argue the experience is the medicine. They point to data showing that when people have these profound, mystical-type experiences, they tend to have better, longer-lasting results. But the other side is trying to do the exact opposite. Get all the benefits without any trip at all. At the very heart of this whole debate is a tiny target in your brain, the 5-HT2A receptor. It's interesting because both psilocybin and even some traditional antidepressants interact with this receptor. The big question is how to activate it for the best result. So one of the holy grails in pharmaceutical research right now is to create new drugs that can basically unlock that 5-HT2A receptor, get the brain's healing mechanisms going, but do it all without causing any hallucinations. They're trying to make an antidepressant that works like psilocybin, but feels like, well, nothing. But the counter-argument to that is really strong. It says that the massive shift in perspective, the emotional release, the deep insights people get during the trip, that's not a side effect. That is the therapy. The whole idea is that you have to shake up those rigid, negative ways of thinking to make room for new, healthier ones. And of course, this whole debate is also about safety. Let's be real. The reason some researchers want to get rid of the trip is to avoid the risks. A psychedelic experience can bring on some really intense anxiety, fear, or paranoia. If you're not in the right setting with the right support, it can be really distressing. And that's exactly why the clinical trials we have now follow such a strict safety plan. The sessions are in a controlled, comfortable environment. They're supervised by trained therapists the whole time. And crucially, they're followed by therapy sessions to help you make sense of it all. Safety is absolutely the #1 priority. So all this brings us to our final section, looking at the future. And it's definitely uncertain, but it is also incredibly promising. So what does the road ahead actually look like? Probably the biggest hurdle right now is just how hard it is to even study psilocybin. Because of strict drug laws, research has been really slow and funding has been hard to come by. And what that means is that most of the studies we have so far are small, which makes it tough to draw those big, sweeping conclusions. So, the most important takeaway here is that while all the early signs are pointing in a really exciting direction, we are still in the very, very early stages of all this. We absolutely need larger, more rigorous studies to really understand what's going on. And that's really what it all boils down to. This research suggests a future where mental health treatment could look fundamentally different, less about that daily maintenance and more about these powerful, occasional interventions that might create truly lasting change. Which leaves us with the ultimate question. We've seen the incredible potential, we've seen the early evidence, and we've seen the challenges. But will psilocybin finally break through and become a mainstream, accepted medical therapy? Honestly, only time and a lot more science is going to tell.